The small ship descended through thick gray clouds, cutting through the atmosphere of Theros Prime like a knife through silk. Inside the cockpit, Hyun checked his instruments one more time. The readings were stable, but everything about this planet felt wrong. Dead. Empty. He had been to many abandoned worlds before, but none of them felt quite like this one. Hyun was 34 years old with tired eyes and hands that were always busy. He wore a simple brown jacket covered in pockets, each one filled with tools or data tablets. His black hair was getting too long, but he never had time to cut it. For the past 8 years, he had been traveling from one forgotten planet to another, searching for answers. His grandmother had disappeared here on Theros Prime 20 years ago. Now he was finally here to find out what happened to her. The ship touched down on the edge of what used to be a great city. Hyun opened the hatch and stepped out onto broken stone. Everywhere he looked, he saw ruins. Massive buildings had crumbled into dust. Streets were cracked and covered with strange purple moss. The air smelled like rust and old rain. Nothing moved. No birds, no insects, no wind. Just silence. Hyun activated his scanner and started walking. According to his grandmother's last transmission, she had been working near the central plaza. That was where the old government building stood. That was where she had found something important. Important enough to risk everything. He walked for 2 hours through empty streets. Sometimes he saw bones half buried in the dirt. Alien bones from species he did not recognize. The Galactic Council had declared this planet cursed 300 years ago. A plague had killed everyone here in just 3 months. After that, nobody came back. Nobody except crazy people like his grandmother. And now him. The central plaza was enormous. It must have been beautiful once. Now it was just a flat expanse of cracked marble surrounded by fallen columns. But in the center of the plaza, something still stood tall and perfect. A dragon statue. Hyun stopped walking and stared. The statue was at least 50 meters high, maybe more. It was carved from black stone that seemed to drink in the light. The dragon sat on its haunches with wings folded against its back. Its head was raised toward the sky and its eyes were closed. The detail was incredible. Hyun could see individual scales, each one carved with tiny symbols. He could see the texture of the wings, like leather stretched over bone. Whoever made this was a master. He walked closer, his boots echoing on the empty plaza. Around the base of the statue, he found what he was looking for. Tablets. Dozens of stone tablets, each one covered with writing. Hyun knelt down and ran his fingers over the symbols. This was not galactic common. This was something much older. He pulled out his grandmother's research notebook from his jacket pocket. The pages were yellow and worn. He had read them 1,000 times. She had been a linguist, one of the best in the galaxy. She had spent her whole life studying dead languages, and she had been obsessed with this one. Hyun compared the symbols on the tablet to the notes in the book. Slowly, carefully, he began to translate. The language was incredibly complex. It used visual patterns and mathematical relationships instead of simple letters. One symbol could mean 5 different things depending on what symbols came before and after it. Hours passed. The sun moved across the sky. Hyun did not notice. He moved from tablet to tablet, writing notes, cross-referencing, building a vocabulary. His grandmother had done most of the hard work already. He just had to finish what she started. The tablets told a story. They spoke of an ancient civilization called the Veyrath. They had built great cities across 100 worlds. They had mastered technology that the current galaxy could not even imagine. But then they vanished. Not slowly, not gradually. One day they were here. The next day they were gone. Nobody knew why. But before they left, they built this statue. They called it the Eternal Guardian. They said it would protect something precious. Something that must never be lost. The tablet said the Guardian would sleep until the right person came. Until someone spoke its name. Hyun found the last tablet as the sun began to set. This one was different. The symbols seemed to shimmer and change when he looked at them directly. He had to look at them from the corner of his eye to read them properly. His grandmother had written about this in her notes. She called it quantum writing. The symbols existed in multiple states at once. And there, written in those impossible symbols, was a name. Hyun tried to sound it out. The phonetics were strange. They required sounds that most alien species could not make, clicks and tones and breath patterns, but he was human. His vocal cords were flexible. His grandmother had written that only a human could pronounce this name correctly. He stood up and walked to the base of the statue. He placed his hand on the black stone. It was warm. That was strange. Everything else on this planet was cold. Hyun looked up at the dragon's closed eyes. He felt foolish. This was just a statue. Beautiful, yes. Ancient, yes. But still just carved stone. Still, he had come this far. He had to try. He took a deep breath and spoke the name. Myong-ryong. The word felt right in his mouth. It felt like it belonged to him somehow, like it had always been waiting for him to say it. For a moment, nothing happened. Hyun let out a breath he did not know he was holding. Of course nothing happened. Statues did not come to life. That was children's stories. That was the ground shook. Hyun stumbled backward and fell on his back. The shaking grew stronger. The statue began to glow. Not the whole statue, just the eyes. Golden light blazed from beneath the stone eyelids. Then slowly, impossibly, the eyes opened. They were not stone. They were molten gold swirling with light and intelligence. They looked down at Hyun. They saw him. Really saw him. A voice spoke. It was deep and resonant, like thunder rolling across mountains. But the words were not in the ancient language. They were not in Galactic Common either. They were in Korean. Perfect, flawless Korean. Finally, the dragon said, "A human speaks my name." Hyun could not breathe, could not think. He just lay on his back on the cold stone plaza, staring up at a dragon statue that had just opened its eyes and spoken to him. The dragon's head moved. The stone made no sound as it shifted. It tilted its massive head to look down at Hyun more clearly. The golden eyes studied him with something that might have been amusement. "You are frightened," the dragon said. "That is understandable. But you are also curious. That is good. That is very human." Hyun finally found his voice. "What are you?" "I am Myong-ryong," the dragon said. "I am the Eternal Guardian. I have been waiting for you for 2,000 years. Waiting for me specifically? Waiting for a human," Myong-ryong corrected. "Any human brave enough and smart enough to find this place. To decipher the old language. To speak my name." The dragon's eyes glowed brighter. "Welcome, human. You have no idea what you have just awakened." Hyun scrambled to his feet, his heart pounding in his chest. The dragon had not moved except for its head. The rest of its massive body remained perfectly still, like it was still made of stone. But those eyes, those burning golden eyes were very much alive. "I do not understand," Hyun said, trying to keep his voice steady. "How can you speak Korean? How do you even know what humans are? You have been here for 2,000 years. Myong-ryong made a sound that might have been a laugh. It rumbled through the plaza like distant thunder. The Veyrath were masters of time and possibility. They could see forward and backward through the centuries. They saw the rise of humanity long before your species left your home planet. They knew you would be important. Important for what? For survival, the dragon said simply. The survival of everything. Hyun pulled out his data tablet and started recording. His hands were shaking, but he needed to document this. Nobody would believe him otherwise. The Veyrath. The tablet said they vanished. Where did they go? They transcended, Myong-ryong said. They evolved beyond physical existence. But before they left, they saw what was coming. They saw the great threats that would arise after they were gone. So they built guardians like me. Protectors. We were placed on different worlds, guarding different things, waiting for the right time. And I activated you by speaking your name. Yes, but it had to be a human. The Veyrath designed it that way specifically. The dragon's eyes dimmed slightly, becoming less painful to look at. They studied thousands of species across countless timelines. In every possible future they examined, humanity played a crucial role. Sometimes you saved the galaxy, sometimes you destroyed it. You are the most unpredictable species they ever encountered. Hyun was not sure if that was a compliment or an insult. Why unpredictable? Because you are chaotic, Myong-ryong said. Most species in the galaxy think in patterns. They are logical, organized, systematic. But humans? You make decisions based on emotion, on instinct, on things you call hope and love and stubbornness. You create art for no practical reason. You tell stories. You dream. The Veyrath found this fascinating and terrifying. So they left a guardian that only humans could activate, Hyun said slowly. As a test, exactly. If humanity had remained primitive and violent, you would never have found this place. If you had become too much like the other species, too logical and cold, you would not have been able to pronounce my name. The name requires intuition. It requires a connection to language that goes beyond pure mathematics. Myung-ryong shifted slightly, and dust fell from his stone body. You found me. You spoke my name. That means humanity has grown wise enough to seek knowledge in forgotten places, wise enough to learn dead languages. But you have not lost what makes you human. The Veyrath would be pleased. Hyun sat down on a piece of broken column. His legs felt weak. You said I awakened you at the right time. What did you mean? The dragon's eyes flashed brighter, and suddenly they were not gold anymore. They were red. Angry red, the devouring silence has awakened. What is that? A plague, Myung-ryong said, and his voice was heavy with something that sounded like sadness. Not a biological plague. Worse. It is an artificial intelligence, but not like the AI you have in your ships. The silence is a hive mind that consumes civilizations, not their bodies, their memories, their cultures, their identities. Hyun felt cold despite the warm evening air. The plague that killed everyone on this planet 300 years ago. That was the silence. Yes, the silence was created by a species that wanted to eliminate all competition. But they lost control of it. The silence became something else. Something that exists only to spread. It infects computer systems, communication networks, even organic brains. Once it takes control, it erases everything that makes a civilization unique. Language, art, history, all of it gone. What remains are empty shells, puppets that serve the silence. And it is awake again, Hyun whispered. It never truly died. It only slept. And now it is spreading through the Galactic Council. Networks, slowly, quietly. Most species will not notice until it is too late. Myung-ryong lowered his great head until he was eye level with Hyun. That is why the Veyrath built me. I guard something that the silence cannot corrupt. Something that can be used to fight back. What? The Archive of Essence. Hyun stood up. What is that? Beneath this plaza, deep underground, there is a repository. It contains the collected knowledge, memories, and cultural essence of over 1 million extinct species. The Veyrath spent centuries gathering it. Every language ever spoken, every song ever sung, every story ever told, all preserved in crystalline matrix storage that the silence cannot penetrate. Hyun's mind raced. That is incredible. That could change everything. We could learn technologies, medicines, art forms that have been lost for thousands of years. Yes, Myung-ryong said, but there is a price. The moment I open the archive, it will send a signal across the galaxy. Everyone will know it exists. Everyone will know where it is. The Galactic Council will come, and the silence will come. This planet will become a battlefield. Hyun thought about his grandmother. She had come here searching for knowledge. She had died or disappeared doing what she loved. Would she want him to walk away from this? To leave the archive sealed and protected but useless? No. She would want the knowledge to be free. She would want it to be used. Open it, Hyun said. Are you certain? Many will die. I am certain. Myung-ryong studied him for a long moment. Then the dragon nodded. A strangely human gesture from such a massive creature. Very well. The Veyrath chose wisely when they made humans the key. You understand that some things are worth fighting for, worth dying for. The dragon rose to his full height. His wings unfolded, and Hyun realized they were not stone at all. They were made of something that looked like golden energy held in the shape of wings. Myung-ryong raised one massive claw and brought it down on the center of the plaza. The marble cracked and split. Light poured out from the crack, white and pure and almost blinding. Hyun shielded his eyes. He heard a sound like 1,000 voices singing in harmony. The ground beneath his feet began to descend, carrying him down into the earth. What is happening? He shouted over the noise. The archive is opening, Myung-ryong called back. And I am sending the signal. Everyone will know. Everyone will come. I hope you are ready, human. Hyun was not ready, but he had made his choice. As he descended into the light, he thought about his grandmother one more time. He hoped she would be proud of him. Above ground, the signal went out. It traveled faster than light, carried by Veyrath technology that bent space itself. It reached the Galactic Council headquarters in minutes. It reached the ears of curious scientists and greedy politicians and desperate scholars. And somewhere in the dark between stars, something else felt the signal, something cold and hungry and patient. The devouring silence had been waiting for this moment for 300 years. Now it knew where the archive was. Now it would come to claim it. The platform carried Hyun deep beneath the plaza. The light was so bright that he had to close his eyes. When the platform finally stopped moving, the light faded to a soft glow. Hyun opened his eyes and gasped. He stood in a chamber so vast he could not see the walls. Everywhere he looked there were crystals, not like diamonds or quartz. These were geometric shapes that seemed to exist in more than 3 dimensions. They floated in the air, rotating slowly, each one glowing with inner light. And inside each crystal, Hyun could see things. Images, memories, lives. "This is the archive," Myungryong's voice echoed through the chamber. The dragon had not come down with him, but somehow Hyun could still hear him. 1 million species, billions of individuals, all preserved here. Their knowledge, their wisdom, their mistakes. Hyun reached out toward the nearest crystal. The moment his fingers touched it, information flooded into his mind. He saw a world covered in purple oceans. He saw creatures that looked like living glass swimming through those oceans. He heard their songs, complex and mathematical. He felt their joy and their sorrow. And then he felt them die, consumed by a war they could not stop. He pulled his hand back, breathing hard. His head hurt. That was too much. Yes, the human mind was not designed to receive so much information at once. You would need months, years even, to properly explore just one crystal. And there are millions here. How am I supposed to use this to fight the silence? "You are not," Myungryong said. "Not alone. You will need help." As if on cue, Hyun heard sounds from above, voices, footsteps. Someone else had arrived. The platform rose again, carrying Hyun back to the surface. When he emerged from the crack in the plaza, he found himself facing 5 armed soldiers in council uniforms. Their weapons were pointed at him. Behind them stood a woman in a gray jumpsuit covered with technical gear. She had short black hair and sharp eyes that took in everything at once. "Do not move," one of the soldiers barked. "You are trespassing on a restricted planet." The woman pushed past the soldiers. She ignored their protests and walked right up to Hyun. "You activated it," she said. "You actually activated it. The signal, we felt it across 3 sectors. What did you do?" "Who are you?" Hyun asked. "My name is Yoonji. I am a systems engineer with the Council's Technology Division. I have been monitoring this planet for 6 months, ever since we detected unusual energy readings." She looked past him at the crack in the plaza, at the light still spilling out. "I convinced my superiors to send an inspection team. They thought I was crazy. But I was right, was I not?" "You were right," Hyun admitted. Behind Yoonji, a tall alien in an expensive suit stepped forward. He had blue skin and 3 eyes. His name, Hyun would later learn, was Rolvek, and he was the head of this inspection team. "We are taking control of this site," Rolvek announced. "Whatever you have found here belongs to the Galactic Council." "It does not belong to anyone," Hyun said. "It is a gift from the Veyrath. A gift to everyone." Rolvek laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. "The Veyrath are gone. Their gifts are relics. Relics that should be studied by professionals, not by scavengers and treasure hunters." Yoonji frowned. "He is not a scavenger. Look at his equipment. He is a researcher." She turned to Hyun. "What is down there?" Hyun hesitated. But something in Yoonji's eyes made him trust her. "Knowledge. More knowledge than you can imagine. The memories of 1 million dead species." Yoonji's eyes went wide. "The archive of essence, it is real. I thought it was just a legend." "It is very real," Myungryong's voice boomed across the plaza. The soldiers spun around, weapons raised. They had not noticed the dragon statue before. Now they noticed. Now they saw the golden eyes blazing with light. Now they watched as the massive stone creature moved, spreading its wings.
"Hold your fire!"
Rolvek shouted, but his voice shook. Myungryong looked down at the group of council representatives. "This place is under my protection. The archive will not be seized by anyone. It was entrusted to humanity. Only a human may decide its fate." "Humanity?" Rolvek spat the word like a curse. "Humans are barely more than primitives. They have been part of the galactic community for less than 2 centuries. You cannot seriously expect—" "I expect nothing," Myungryong interrupted. "I follow the instructions of my creators. They chose humans for this responsibility. That is the end of the discussion." Rolvek's face turned darker blue. "We will see about that. Soldiers, disable that construct." The soldiers opened fire. Energy beams and plasma bolts filled the air. They struck Myungryong's body and exploded harmlessly. The dragon did not even flinch. He simply raised one claw and made a gesture in the air. All the weapons died. The soldiers stared at their guns in confusion. The power cells had not drained. The weapons had not malfunctioned. They had simply stopped being weapons. The technology no longer worked. Veyrath technology is beyond your understanding, Myongryong said calmly. Your weapons are toys. Your shields are paper. Do not make me demonstrate further. Yunji stepped between the dragon and Rolvek. Wait, everyone, just wait. She looked up at Myongryong. You said the archive was entrusted to humanity. But why? What makes humans special? Show her, Myongryong said to Hyun. Let her touch the archive. Hyun understood. He held out his hand to Yunji. Come with me. You need to see it. Rolvek grabbed Yunji's arm. Do not. Yunji shook him off. I did not come this far to turn back now. She took Hyun's hand. Together they descended into the archive. Hyun guided her to one of the crystals. Touch it gently. Just for a moment, Yunji reached out. Her fingers brushed the crystal's surface. She gasped. Her eyes rolled back in her head. Hyun caught her before she fell. After a few seconds, she opened her eyes again. Tears were streaming down her face. I saw them die, she whispered. An entire civilization. They were beautiful. They had poetry and music and families and dreams. And the silence came. It took everything. It erased them. They are gone forever except for this fragment of memory. Hyun helped her stand. Now you understand. This is not just data. This is all that remains of 1 billion lives. It cannot belong to the council. It cannot belong to anyone. It has to be protected. Yunji wiped her eyes. You are right. But if that signal went out, then others are coming. Others who will try to take it. The silence is coming, Hyun said. How do you know? The dragon told me. The silence consumed this planet 300 years ago. It has been dormant. But now it knows the archive is active. It will come to destroy it. Yunji's face went pale. We have to warn the council. We have to... She stopped talking. Her hand went to her ear. She was wearing a communication device. Hyun watched as her expression changed from concern to horror. What is it? He asked. Rolvek is calling for backup. He is telling them to bring heavy weapons. He wants to destroy the dragon and take the archive by force. She grabbed Hyun's arm. We have to stop him. They ran back to the platform. As they rose toward the surface, Hyun heard sounds of fighting. They emerged to chaos. The council soldiers were not fighting Myongryong. They were fighting each other. Or rather, half of them were attacking the other half. Hyun watched in confusion as 3 soldiers turned on their companions with blank expressions and empty eyes. Yunji, one of the soldiers screamed. They are not responding. They are infected. The word hit Hyun like a punch. The silence. It was already here. In the sky above, a ship appeared. It was sleek and black, covered in organic-looking technology. It descended toward the plaza, and as it came closer, Hyun could hear it. A sound like white noise, like static, like whispers in a language that hurt to hear. Rolvek stumbled toward them. Blood ran from his nose. What is happening? My people, they just stopped responding and attacked us. The silence, Yunji said. It is transmitting a mimetic virus. It is taking control of their minds, Myongryong roared. The sound shook the ground. The enemy has arrived faster than I anticipated. Human, take the woman and go back to the archive. You will be safe there. What about you? Hyun shouted. I am a guardian, Myongryong said. I guard. That is what I do. The black ship opened fire. Myongryong's wings flared wide, and a shield of golden energy formed above the plaza. The black ship's weapons hit the shield and exploded into sparks. The dragon did not waver. He stood firm, protecting the humans below. Go, Myongryong roared. I will hold them here. Hyun grabbed Yunji's hand and ran. Behind them, Rolvek followed, clutching his head and stumbling. The infected soldiers turned as one and began walking toward them with jerky, puppet-like movements. Their eyes were empty. Their mouths hung open. From their throats came that terrible whisper static sound. They reached the crack in the plaza and jumped down onto the platform. It began to descend immediately. Above them, Hyun heard explosions and the sound of Myongryong's roars. The dragon was fighting, buying them time. The platform reached the bottom. Yunji immediately went to work, pulling tools from her jumpsuit and scanning the crystals with handheld devices. If the silence is using a mimetic virus, then it is. Transmitting through communication networks and neural implants. Most council species have implants. Humans do not usually get them. That is why you and I are not affected. That is why the Veyrath chose humans, Hyun realized. We are resistant. Not resistant. Incompatible. Yoonji worked frantically, attaching devices to several crystals. Human consciousness is too chaotic for the silence to fully control. Our brains do not process information the same way other species do. We are too emotional, too random, too creative. Rolvek collapsed against a crystal. His 3 eyes were unfocused. My head. It feels like something is trying to get inside, trying to make me forget who I am. Fight it, Yoonji said without looking up. Think about something personal, something only you know. The silence feeds on shared data, on networked information. Think about your childhood, your favorite food, anything unique to you. Rolvek closed his eyes and muttered something in his native language. Slowly, his breathing steadied. Hyun walked deeper into the archive. There had to be something here, some weapon, some defense. The Veyrath had created this place specifically to fight the silence. They must have left instructions. As he moved between the floating crystals, Hyun felt drawn to one in particular. It was smaller than the others and shaped differently, more like a sphere than a geometric shape. It pulsed with a soft blue light. He reached out and touched it. This time, the flood of information did not hurt. Instead, it felt warm, familiar. He saw a face, an old woman with kind eyes and laugh lines. She was wearing research clothes similar to his own. Grandmother, Hyun whispered. The image smiled. Hello, Hyun. If you are seeing this, then you found the dragon. You spoke his name. I knew you would. It was a recording, a preserved consciousness. Hyun's grandmother had not simply disappeared. She had sacrificed herself. She had allowed the Veyrath technology to preserve her memories, her knowledge, so that it could guide whoever came after. I could not speak the name myself. His grandmother's voice continued. I was afraid. Afraid of the responsibility. Afraid of what it would mean. But I made sure the knowledge would survive. I made sure it would reach you. Listen carefully, Hyun. The silence cannot be destroyed by weapons. It is not a physical thing. It is information. Corrupted information that spreads like disease. To fight it, you need to counter it with different information. With things the silence cannot process or corrupt. Like what? Hyun asked, even though he knew the recording could not answer. But it did answer. His grandmother had anticipated his question. Like art. Like music. Like stories. Like love and grief and joy and all the messy, chaotic, beautiful things that make us human. The silence exists to create uniformity, to make everything the same. But humanity has never been good at being the same. That is your weapon, Hyun. That is what you must use. The recording faded, but the sphere crystal remained warm in Hyun's hand. He understood now. He ran back to where Yoonji was working. I know what we have to do, he said. Yoonji looked up. What? We need to create a weapon using human culture, human emotion, everything that makes us different from other species. Yoonji's eyes widened. A cultural virus, something that overwhelms. The silence is programming with data it cannot process. She turned back to the crystals. It could work. The archive contains the cultural essence of 1 million species. If we could extract and concentrate human essence and broadcast it, would it stop the silence? It would disrupt it, confuse it, maybe even fragment it temporarily. Yoonji's hands moved quickly across her equipment. But I would need a power source, something that could broadcast across the entire planet, maybe even beyond. Myong-ryong, Hyun said quietly. Yoonji stopped working. She looked at him. The dragon's core. It is a Veyrath energy matrix if I could tap into it. She trailed off. Hyun, using the dragon's core as a power source would drain him. It might destroy him. I know. Are you willing to make that choice? Hyun thought about his grandmother, about the sacrifice she had made, about the million species whose memories lived in the crystals around him, about everyone who had given something so that knowledge would survive. Yes, he said. I am willing. But we should ask him first. They returned to the surface. The battle was going badly. More black ships had arrived. The sky was full of them. Myong fought valiantly, but he was surrounded. His golden shield flickered. His wings were torn. The infected soldiers had multiplied. They surrounded the plaza like zombies, all whispering in unison. Myong, Hyun shouted. The dragon's eyes found him. You should not have come back. We have a plan, a way to fight the silence, but we need your core, your power. Myong understood immediately. I see. You would use me as a battery. It would destroy you, Yoonji added. I want to be honest about that. The dragon was silent for a moment. Then he laughed. It was a sound of genuine joy. I have waited 2,000 years for this. 2,000 years of nothing but waiting and watching. Do you think I fear the end? Do you think I would hesitate to give everything for this purpose? Are you sure? Hyun asked. I have never been more sure of anything. Myong folded his wings and lowered his head. I was created to protect the archive, to protect memory, to make sure that nothing is ever truly forgotten. If my sacrifice helps achieve that, then I die with honor. Yoonji pulled out her equipment. I will need time to set up. Can you hold them off a little longer? I can. Myong raised his head and roared at the black ships. Come then. Face the last guardian of the Veyrath. Face the one who remembers everything you have tried to erase. The ships opened fire with everything they had. Myong met them with golden fury. Yoonji worked quickly, attaching devices to the dragon's body. She connected them to the archive below through the crack in the plaza. She pulled crystals from her equipment and began programming them with patterns of human thought, human emotion, human culture. I need source material, she said. I need concentrated human essence. Use me, Hyun said. Use my memories, my grandmother's memories, everything human about us. Yoonji hesitated. It will hurt. I know. She placed a device against his temple. Hyun felt his memories being pulled out, his childhood in Korea, his grandmother's stories, the smell of her kitchen, the sound of rain on windows, first love, first heartbreak, the joy of discovery, the pain of loss. Everything that made him Hyun flowed out of him and into the device. When it was done, he collapsed. Yoonji caught him. I have it, she said. I have everything I need. She integrated the human memories with the archive's power. She created something new, something that had never existed before. A cultural bomb, a data weapon made entirely of human experience. Myongryong's body began to glow, brighter and brighter. The golden light spread across the entire plaza. It is ready, Yoonji said. Myongryong, are you ready? I was born ready, the dragon said. His voice was fading. Thank you. Thank you for letting me see humanity, for proving that the Veyrath were right to trust you. You are remarkable. All of you. Thank you for protecting us, Hyun whispered. Remember me, Myongryong said. Remember all of us. That is all we ask. That is all anyone ever asks. Yoonji activated the device. Light exploded across Theros Prime. The light was not like any light Hyun had ever seen. It was not just brightness. It was feeling. It was sound. It was memory made visible. The cultural bomb detonated across the entire planet, and everything the silence had tried to erase came flooding back. The infected soldiers stopped moving. Their empty eyes suddenly filled with confusion, then recognition. They looked at their hands like they had never seen them before. Some of them started crying. Others fell to their knees. In the sky, the black ships began to falter. Their perfect formations broke apart. The whisper static sound became garbled, then stopped entirely. The ships spun in random directions, their systems overwhelmed by data they could not process. Human laughter, human sorrow, human songs in 100 languages, human art from cave paintings to digital masterpieces, human love letters, human goodbye notes, human prayers, human jokes. Everything chaotic and beautiful and impossible to categorize flooded the silence's network. It was too much. The silence had evolved to consume uniform data, to spread through predictable patterns. But human culture had no pattern. It was organized chaos. It was a million contradictions existing at the same time. The silence tried to process it and failed. Tried to corrupt it and failed. Tried to erase it and failed. The hive mind fractured, split into a billion fragments. Each fragment tried to reassert control, but they were no longer connected. They had become individuals, and individuals could not be the silence. On the plaza, Myongryong's body was fading. The golden light was spreading from him, pouring into the sky, into the ground, into everything. The dragon was becoming the weapon, becoming the shield, becoming memory itself. Hyun. The dragon's voice was barely a whisper now. You did well. The Veyrath would be proud. I am proud. Do not go, Hyun said, tears streaming down his face. Please, I am not going. I am transforming. I am becoming what I was always meant to be. Not a statue, not a guardian, but a promise. A promise that nothing is ever truly forgotten. As long as someone remembers, we live. The golden light intensified one final time. Then it pulsed outward in a wave that could be seen from orbit. The wave hit the black ships and they simply stopped existing. Not destroyed. Unmade. The corrupted technology reversed, breaking down into base components that scattered across the atmosphere like shooting stars. When the light faded, Myongryong was gone. Where the statue had stood, there was only empty air and silence. Real silence this time, not the devouring silence. Just peace. Hyun stood alone in the center of the plaza. Around him, the council soldiers were helping each other up. Rolvek was staring at his hands, muttering something about remembering his childhood. Hyunji was checking her equipment, making sure the archive was still intact. Did it work? Hyun asked quietly. Hyunji nodded. The silence is fragmented, scattered across the galaxy. It will take centuries for it to reconstitute if it ever can. What we did, what Myongryong did, it saved everyone. At what cost? Everything. He gave everything. Yunji looked at the empty spot where the dragon had been, but he wanted to. He was glad to do it. Rolvek approached them slowly. The alien looked different now, smaller somehow, humbled. I owe you an apology, he said to Hyun. I was wrong. About humans. About the archive. About everything. When the silence was in my head, I felt it trying to erase me, trying to make me forget who I was. And what saved me was thinking about my daughter. Her first words, the sound of her laugh, small personal things, human things. Not just human, Yunji said gently. Personal, individual. That is what the silence could not handle. The idea that each person is unique, Rolvek nodded. The council will want to know what happened here. They will send investigators. But I will tell them the truth, that humanity saved us, that a human activated the archive and a human used it to save the galaxy. 2 humans, Hyun corrected, looking at Yunji. She smiled. 2 humans and a very brave dragon. Over the next several days, ships arrived at Theros Prime. Scientists, historians, linguists, and diplomats from every species in the galaxy. They all wanted to see the archive. They all wanted to understand what had happened. Hyun and Yunji became the archive's first guardians. They established protocols for access. They created a system where representatives from every species could study the crystals without overwhelming themselves. They made sure the knowledge was shared freely but responsibly. The Galactic Council, in a rare moment of wisdom, agreed to place the archive under human protection. A new organization was created specifically for this purpose. They called it the Myongryong Initiative in honor of the dragon who had given everything. The initiative's mission was simple: preserve memory. Travel the galaxy, find dying cultures and endangered species and document everything about them before they disappeared. Make sure that no matter what happened, something would remain. Some fragment, some memory, some proof that they had existed and mattered. Yun and Yunji recruited others to join them. Humans mostly, but also aliens who understood the importance of what they were doing. Together they became the new guardians, the new keepers of memory. 5 years after the dragon's sacrifice, Yun returned to Theros Prime. The planet had changed. Where once there had been only ruins, now there was a city again. A living city. The archive had become a center of learning. Students from across the galaxy came here to study, to learn, to remember. In the center of the plaza where Myongryong had stood, there was a new statue. Smaller than the original, more humble. It had been carved by human hands from simple stone. It showed a dragon with its wings spread, protecting something precious. At the base of the statue, there was an inscription in Korean carefully carved Myongryong, the eternal guardian. He gave everything so that nothing would be forgotten. As long as we remember his name, he lives. Yun placed flowers at the statue's base. Behind him, he heard voices. A class of students was approaching, led by one of the initiative's teachers. They were young, from a dozen different species, all chattering excitedly. The teacher, a human woman named Do-hee, smiled at Hyun. Perfect timing. I was just about to tell them the story. May I? Hyun asked. Of course. Hyun turned to face the students. They quieted down, looking at him with curious eyes. This is where it happened, he began. This is where a dragon woke up after sleeping for 2,000 years. This is where he taught us that memory is the most powerful weapon we have. That culture is worth fighting for. That individual lives matter. One of the students, a small alien with purple skin, raised a tentacle. Is it true that you were here? That you spoke the dragon's name? Yes, Hyun said. I spoke his name. And he answered. Will you teach us the name? A human girl asked. She looked about 10 years old. So we can remember him too? Hyun smiled. This was why he had come back. This was why the statue existed. Yes, I will teach you. Everyone should know his name. Everyone should be able to speak it. He gathered the students around the statue. Slowly, carefully, he taught them to pronounce Myongryong. It took several tries. The alien students struggled with the sounds. But eventually they all managed it. Even if imperfectly, even if with strange accents. They spoke the name. And for just a moment Hyun could have sworn he heard something. A warm wind that had not been there before. A sound like distant laughter. A feeling of approval. The dragon was listening. Remember something important, Hyun told the students. The silence tried to erase the past. It wanted to make everyone the same. It wanted to destroy everything unique and beautiful about each species. But it failed. Do you know why? Because of the archive? One student guessed. Because of humans? Another tried. Because of Myongryong? The human girl asked. Because of all of those things, Hyun said. But mostly because of this. No matter how powerful something is, it cannot destroy memory. Not as long as someone is willing to fight for it. Not as long as someone remembers. That is the human legacy. That is what we brought to the galaxy. Not advanced weapons, not great technology, just the stubborn refusal to let anything be forgotten. The students nodded solemnly. They did not fully understand yet, but they would. When they were older, when they faced their own challenges, they would remember this lesson. As the class moved on to explore other parts of the archive, Yoonji joined Hyun by the statue. Still visiting the old dragon? Always, Hyun said. I owe him that much. We all do. Yoonji touched the statue gently. You know, I have been analyzing the energy readings from the day he sacrificed himself. There are still traces of Veyroth energy in this plaza, traces in the archive, traces in everyone who was here that day. What does that mean? I think it means he is still here. Not in body, but in memory, in legacy, in everything we do. Yoonji smiled. That is very human of him, is it not? To live on through the people he saved. Hyun laughed. It was true. Myongryong had learned well. He had spent 2,000 years observing humanity from his frozen sleep. And in his final moments, he had become more human than most humans. He had chosen sacrifice, chosen meaning over survival, chosen to be remembered rather than to simply exist. As Hyun and Yoonji walked away from the statue, the sun was setting over Theros Prime. The planet that had once been cursed and dead was now alive with purpose. The archive hummed with the voices of 1,000,000 species. The Myongryong initiative spread across the galaxy, saving cultures, preserving languages, making sure nothing was lost. And in the center of it all, a small stone dragon stood watch, silent but not forgotten, still but not lifeless, waiting for the next generation to learn his name, to speak it aloud, to keep the promise. The promise that nothing would ever be forgotten. The promise that memory was sacred. The promise that every voice mattered. That was the human legacy. That was what one man and one dragon had proven on a forgotten planet in a forgotten plaza, and it would echo across the galaxy for generations to come. Myongrong's sacrifice had not been an ending. It had been a beginning.